Our final SOS video to help prepare for the quarter 3 assessment is about factoring. Okay, typical mistakes people make is they forget to factor completely. They stop halfway. You need to make sure that every expression in the parentheses can't be factored anymore before you stop. Always factor out the GCF first. And if a binomial has a plus sign, remember we can't factor it using dots because the D in dot stands for difference. The binomial has to have a minus sign. So what you want to do is pause the video, do the problems on it, and start it again and see how you did. Okay, how'd you do? Remember with this is a trinomial with a leading coefficient of 1, so right away we can do the AM method. What adds to a -1 and multiplies to a -42. So x squared times x squared will give us x to the 4th, and -7 times a +6. It looks like this might be able to be factored using dots, but 7 is not a perfect square, so I can't do anything with that. And this has a plus sign with the two terms, so right away that's not dots, not a difference of two squares. So that would be your final answer. All right, factor completely. I first try to find the GCF. There is no GCF. I do recognize this is dots, difference of two squares. X squared minus 4 times x squared plus 4. But I look at every expression in the parentheses and ask, can I factor further? So x squared minus 4, I can factor using dots. That's x minus 2 times x plus 2. X squared plus 4, I can't factor further because that's a plus sign. We need to have a minus sign there. But it is a factor, so I do copy that down. For this one, you looked for the GCF first. 6 went into all of these evenly. And x to the 5th, 5x's, 4x's, 3x's, so they all have at least 3 of them in common. So once I take 6x to the 3rd out and I divide each of these by 6x to the 3rd, I'm left with x squared minus 5x plus 6. Then I take a look in the parentheses, can I factor that further? And I can, it's my AM method, what adds to -5 and multiplies to a +6. And I get that. All right, and finally, Nathaniel, Matt, Claire, and Riley were given this expression factor. They all gave different answers. Who had an equivalent expression? I'm not asking who factored fully, only one person did, but who had an equivalent expression. So one of the easiest ways to do this is actually factor this out yourself. I factor out my GCF. I got x squared minus x minus 20, and I recognize I can factor this using the AM method. So we recognize that Nathaniel was the only one that factored fully. So that's definitely an equivalent expression. Riley came close. She had done it halfway. And now we're left with Matt and Claire. Well, how can I check to see if this is right? We can do two things. We can double distribute, or in this case, distribute, and see what we get. So 2x times x is 2x squared. 2x times -5 is a -10x. 8 times x is a +8x. And 8 times -5 is -40. When I combine like terms, I get 2x squared minus 2x minus 40. So what Matt had done is he had factored before taking out the GCF. But this is still equivalent. It still will have the same value. Let's see what happens when I distribute Claire's. 2x times x is 2x squared. 2x times -1x is a -2x squared. And 2x times -20 is a -40x. When I combine like terms, I'm left with -40x. And that is not equivalent to this. Another thing that you could have done is to put this in the calculator. So Matt had said this was, let's start off with our original one, 2x squared. So 2x squared minus 2x minus 40. Okay, doesn't matter what number I get here. What matters is that any of the expressions that I think are equivalent will also get that number. So when I take Nathaniel's, 2 times x minus 5 times x plus 4, and I put that in, I get my same number. Riley's 2 times x squared minus x minus 20, and I get that as well, which we knew those were going to be equivalent. Remember Max, 2x plus 8 times x minus 5, and that also will give 140. And let's take a look at Claire's. 2x times x minus 1x minus 20. That did not give me the same value. So that's telling me immediately this is not equivalent. Right? So just a couple of ways to check your answers with this. And this has been the final practice session for your quarter 3 assessment. If there was anything that you did not do correctly or had forgotten to do, please go back and revisit the particular SOS video on that lesson. Take care.